Me up on your.
Hello, everyone. This is Explaining the Unexplainable, and I have my amazing co host right next to me, Mr. Bishop Joshua Sparks, exorcist Mr. Bishop Joshua Sparks. And he is going to introduce our amazing guest.
Well, thank you, Mercedes. It's a
Who's
privilege and an
that?
honor to welcome everybody to Explaining the Unexplainable, the show where we journey beyond the veil of the visible, peel back the layers of reality, and confront the mysteries that most are too afraid to face. I'm your host, Bishop Joshua, along with my amazing co host, Mercedes. Um, and, it's amazing that we have this man here with us tonight. This amazing show, this amazing platform produced by Mr. Stan Fikes. And tonight's episode is not just another deep dive into the paranormal, it's a confrontation with darkness, redemption, and raw truth. Our guest is someone who has not only studied the unexplained, he has lived it. Joining us is none other than the legendary, the man, the legend, the myth, Jason McLeod, prolific author, lecturer, and seasoned demonologist trained directly under the legendary Ed and Lorraine Warren. That's right, the very same Ed and Lorraine Warren whose legacy inspired the Conjuring universe. Jason has taken their work into the 21st century with sharp insight, spiritual discernment, and a powerful calling to help those tormented by things that go bump in the night and the soul. Jason is the author of the chilling and critically acclaimed Dark Siege series. Dark Siege, A Connecticut Family's Nightmare, and Dark Siege, The Nightmare Continues, or The Nightmare Returns. I'm sorry, Jason.
That's right.
His books are gripping accounts based on actual cases of demonic infestation, spiritual warfare, and deliverance, and they're available on Amazon and through his official website at www.darksiege.com. But Jason is far more than a writer. He's an active force on the spiritual front lines, traveling and lecturing and appearing at some of the world's leading paranormal and metaphysical conventions. If you felt the energy shift in a room this year, chances are Jason McLeod walked in. So let's get into
Wow.
it. Uh, let's talk about some of your recent appearances. Jason, you've been incredibly busy this year. Can you walk us through some of your major appearances in 2025 so far? And are there any standout investigations, lectures, or spiritual encounters that you can share with our listeners?
Well, that was a fantastic intro. I should have you write my biographies.
Well,
That was good. I always start off saying, you know, I'm pretty humble, and I don't consider myself a legend by any means. The legends are my friends and mentors, Ed and Lorraine Warren, and I've been blessed to have been able to work, for and with them. And there are very few in the inner circle, if you will, that were there in the 80s. They've been at it since 1955. I came in 1990, and we were all very serious people. But anyway, I've talked about that enough. Anybody can learn about that on any of my podcasts and Coast to Coast and all those things. But yeah, I've been really busy this year. 2025, I have over 30 events scheduled. I have 15 remaining. And this weekend, I'm headed to Fan Expo in Boston. And after that, I drive all the way to Chicago. Yes, I drive because I have so many books I have to carry with me and table display. And if I fly and ship everything over and have to rent a car, it just eats into all my profits. So I drive, and it's a long journey, but I put 77,000 miles on my 2023 Hyundai Tucson. And
wow.
it's crazy. I actually have to get new tires before I leave for Chicago. But Fan Expo Boston, then Fan Expo Chicago, and then I'm taking a much needed Viking River cruise. My sister and brother and I are taking my mother on a Viking River cruise from Bucharest to Amsterdam, and none of us have been there, in any of those countries. So I'm hoping, the weather is good. But after that, man, oof, I have so many shows coming up. I'll read them off to you. I have Fright Reads Book Festival in Maryland. And I've never done a book festival before because I figure there's 100 different authors there. But my thing is that my books are unique in that I've recreated real cases that I investigated that are absolutely some of the most intense ever. And I use a cinematic writing style, and it's something completely unique. So no matter which type of convention I do, I always sell my books really well. And because there's just a great message behind it. And like I tell everybody, it's not meant to cause fear by any means. At the family's request, this case took place in 1993. The family's request, we decided we wanted to warn people not to make the same mistakes that this particular family made. Listen to your children if they're saying they're seeing things. Don't dismiss it and tell them that their eyes are playing tricks on them, and communicate with each other. If things are happening, don't keep it to yourselves because you're fearful of upsetting somebody, because other people can be experiencing things too. And that's how these beings operate. These entities, they want to basically divide and conquer and isolate and terrorize. And Bishop Sparks, you know all about that. And so Fright Reads Book Festival, September 13th to the 14th. And I have Connecticut Horror Fest in my home state, September 20th and 21st. And I'm actually a sponsor there this year. I've actually, sponsored the event because I was there from the very beginning several years ago, all the way through until this year. Then I have Haunted Market in Augusta, Maine, September 27th. I have New York Blood and Ink Tattoo and Horror Show, October 3rd through the 5th. Breaking into the tattoo conventions. And I never thought I would do that, but they're big. People who are waiting to get their tattoos and so forth. I don't have a single tattoo on my body, by the way, are looking for things to buy. So October, this is when this case took place. So it's the perfect time to sell those books as well. Then I have GalaxyCon St. Louis. And that is, GalaxyCon is huge, just like Fan Expo is. And that's really great because there's tens of thousands of attendees. October, my birthday weekend, October 10th through the 12th. Then I have Nightmare Weekend in Richmond, Virginia, October 17th to the 19th. I double booked myself. Dark Siege Oddities Expo, New Jersey is a single day show, October 18th. And I also have the 17th through the 19th in Virginia. So I'm actually looking for a very hotshot salesperson who wants to man my booth on October 18th and take 25% of the commissions for everything they sell. If it could do that, great. If not, then I'll just cancel it. Bishop Sparks, you should do it for me. I have Halloween Ink Expo, Ashland, Kentucky, October 24th to 25th. Yeah,
Ashland, that's where I live.
That's where he lives.
All right, Halloween.
Are
Ink
you
Expo.
serious?
Yeah, I'm going to be a special guest there, October 24th through the 25th, and hopefully I'll be doing a lecture. In fact,
I'll be there with you.
Cool, excellent.
Oh my
and then
gosh.
And then Rhode Island Comic Con, November 7th through the 9th. Nightmare Weekend, Savannah, Georgia, November 14th to the 16th. Monster Mania in Oaks, Pennsylvania, November 21st to the 23rd. GalaxyCon, Columbus, Ohio, December 5th through the 7th. And then the last one, at least I think it should be the last one, is Wreck the Halls. It's a market in New Jersey, December 13th through the 14th. So 15 more shows to go. I'll send you all the details about the Ashland, Kentucky. That's pretty cool. Hopefully we'll be able to sit together and see some sights, if you know what I mean.
Oh, yeah. We will.
Are you
know
going
what I mean?
to Arizona?
You know what I mean?
Like, are you going to
Nothing in Arizona. It's too far and it's too hot. But it's too far.
Don't come here
unless
now.
I fly. Unless I can fly, right?
I can't believe you're coming to Ashland. Wow.
It's too hot to come here.
Yeah, that just actually was booked. Because
You're
I did it when.
Are you going to be in? Did you say Transylvania?
No, Pennsylvania. I'd like to go to. I don't know if I'd like to go to Transylvania, but
Transylvania 65000.
Yeah. Anyway, I do all these shows to sell my books and my Legends T-shirts and my posters, and now I have the Defeating the Demonic DVDs from the 2023 event. I'd like to be able to get all the video compiled for the 2024 event and eventually whip that out there. But I'm about a year behind. And as you know, I'd love to be able to take this on the road. So many people are giving me feedback about it, and they say it's such valuable information, and it's I guess I need a publicist. I do all this stuff on my own, and I have done it since 2012. And it just keeps growing and growing and growing. And now, the really good news is I have the first of 5 graphic novels now in the final edit phase, which is a full color 8.5 by 11, gorgeous color artwork graphic novel, which is like adult comic book for the first third of the Dark Siege of Connecticut Family's Nightmare book called Dark Siege Infestation. And that's really exciting. Yeah. So it's another format for people because so many people don't like to read. And I got the greatest feedback today, and it just makes me feel so good. I got a message from somebody who bought my books in Dayton, Ohio last weekend. And he said, I have never read a book in my life, not even all through school. And I'm like, well, how is that possible? But he said, I read your books from cover to cover and I could not put them down. And I absolutely love them, and he gave me all this phenomenal feedback. And I was like, but it still bothered me. I was like, how can you not read a book in school? How did you graduate school? But it's funny. It's really cool. That really makes me feel good because the number one comments are I could not put the books down because I write in a cinematic writing style. I recreated it as I see it in my head, right? And then it comes across that way on the page. And it's just, that's what I went to college for. So, but honestly, I can't remember hardly any classes that I took in college for creative writing, but except the workshops where you get feedback from everybody. But anyway, so that's what I do. I'm recreating all of my cases. In fact, I'm writing a case now called The Demon of Daybreak Farm, which is the third in the Dark Siege series about a case I investigated with Ed and Lorraine Warren and 5 other members of our team in 1990. And I've been conversing with my friend Drew Thompson, who's a medium, almost as talented as Lorraine. I mean, how do you gauge? Amazing friend of mine from the very beginning. In fact, he was the person that opened the door when I first walked into the Warrens' classroom before I met Lorraine. And he and I converse daily, sometimes on the phone, as well. And he's given me so much information from what he remembers about the case because he took notes and I have the audio and so forth. But it's a mind bender. It's a really scary case. That's where I am now, is recreating the cases that I investigated. So it can be a never ending process considering, how many books I can write about it. But I don't know.
What's really great too is that mini documentary that you have out. I think that's very well done. The documentary that you have, it's a documentary, isn't it? And it has the cases with the Warren when it's about your life.
Yeah, Devin Bellinger. We played that at Defeating the Demonic during the dinner break, along with your documentary.
Your doc. Yeah,
we played yours as well.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. So, Devin actually, she read my book from cover to cover. I met her at Scarefest in Lexington, Kentucky, I think in 2014, and she read my book on a flight to England from cover to cover, and she contacted me and says, I have to help you turn this into a documentary. So she flew up and filmed B-roll for that, and then she had all kinds of tragedies take place. In fact, that's very fascinating, is that Andrea Perrin gifted her a metal horse figurine that she had dug up on the property up in Rhode Island where the Conjuring house is. And upon gifting her that statue, horrible misfortunes took place all over the place, including her animals dying, her horses getting sick and dying, her dogs. And she had to completely back out and so forth. And then she came back in a couple of years later. And anyway, it came up. And actually, I flew to Arizona to do the documentary interviews. And we went to Sedona. And this was before COVID happened. But that's done too. I should actually have those printed on DVDs and sell those as well. It's pretty well done. It's over an hour long. At least that was the first part. And we were going to do every chapter that way. So there's lots of things going on. It's just a matter of...
You've been a busy man.
I've been a busy beaver.
I can't believe you're coming to Ashland. That is so crazy.
Is it? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's great. I can't wait to see you.
Yeah, you too.
Well, how do you feel about? I mean, it's kind of a controversial issue, but the Warrens, the things going on with the Warrens,
The Annabelle
all of
doll.
their items and the
So,
selling of the property. I know we have to get into it, but
I've got to be tactical about this because I don't want to
yeah.
step on people's toes and hurt people's feelings and choose sides, and it ends up being a complete freaking political nightmare. But as one of a few, well, as one of maybe just a handful, a dozen or less real Ed and Lorraine Warren students from the 1990s. That's when I came in, 1990. Including others who came in the 80s, including their nephew, who's a good friend of mine, John, and Drew, and Donna and Joe Zor, and Joe Hayjack, and others that were there that were on the cases that I was investigating in 1990 with the Warrens. We were like the core students as far as I was concerned, because I didn't see anybody else around that was actually approved to go on cases and severe cases and things like that. The most common denominator, Bishop Sparks, was how strong is your faith, right? You have to have an incredible, unshakable faith, and they have to be convinced that you have that faith before you set foot on any of these major properties. And, going out on cases representing the Warrens and on cases with them, because her primary concern was the investigators. The next primary concern was the safety of her husband, Ed, who was at the time having heart issues starting in 1990 when I came in. And lastly, for herself. But she would call off investigations before they ever took place, midway or early, because things were getting dangerous and she didn't want anybody to get hurt. But anyway, I was there in the museum. I wrote an entire, 4-page diatribe about all the current chain of events that have taken place, from the death of Dan Rivera all the way to the sale of the museum and the house to comedians. You know what I mean? That's comedy in itself. I can't even believe that has happened. And Tony and Judy have their reasons. They're in control of everything. And, Judy is their daughter and Tony's the son-in-law, and they've been in charge of everything since Ed passed, and, all the way through into the point where Lorraine passed. And I try to be a bridge builder, not a bridge destroyer, and try to bring people together. Because what I always said from the beginning is, when I first reached out to them after many years, saying, look, I was there from the beginning, at least not the beginning. The beginning was in the 50s. I came in there in the 90s. I was an original member of the original team that worked with Ed and Lorraine in their prime, when they were still in their prime. And I said, there are people now who are members of the New England Society for Psychic Research who've never even met Ed, who never worked on a case with either Ed or Lorraine, because Lorraine was declining, sadly. And, we have an incredible history here, but we also have, the new people. So, everybody can come together, and have their own piece of the puzzle and their own piece of history put together and work together. But, sadly, those of us that were there in the pit, in the trenches working with the Warrens, have been excluded by and large. I was brought in, thankfully, I got to be a vendor at the conventions. So I could tell my story to those who came to my table. I didn't get any stage time until last year. And last year I was a guest speaker and got to tell my story. And I said right there, this is about the Warrens, right? This is their legacy. They're the legends, right? Yeah. We're just the students in our regards, and or the people that have inherited the kingdom. But then it was said, oh, well, we're the new generation of investigators. It's like, well, you have nothing to do with the actual Warrens. We did, and not trying to, stand on a pedestal or anything, but it is a part of history that we can claim as our own. And we're very proud of, to be able to have had that experience. And we want to be able to share those experiences. And yet there are people up there who've never once even met Ed yet, and they're claiming to want to, carry on their legacy. There are two people in particular, I don't want to name names, who are out there promoting themselves as the legendary legends themselves. And it's it's ridiculous because neither of those people were around when I came in. Neither of those people were on any cases that I went on with the Warrens and was assigned by the Warrens. I never even saw them set foot anywhere near the house or the museum or anywhere. And they're claiming to have been around from the beginning for 40 years plus. It was like, and they're selling selfies of themselves. And it's like, you're not the important people here. You know what I mean? The Warrens are. And there's so much fake history being written. It's driving me a little bats. And a lot of us are just really, really tired of sitting and remaining quiet about it because, we know the truth. When you know, you know. And I even forgot the question you asked me. But I cannot believe. Here's the thing, and I'm going to quote Bishop Long from the 2023 event. To all the paranormal investigators out there and all the general public out there, demonology is not paranormal. It's not a field of it's not a paranormal study. It's theological, right? It's night and day, literally, right? It is so much more intense and so much more serious. And Ed, he told us from the very beginning, if you decide to enter this work, you're a marked man. The dark side, you're marked. You're standing up and saying, here I am, I'm standing against you, and I'm going to learn the tools necessary to do so. As a demonologist, I'm not clergy, obviously, and didn't go through any of that type of training. But I learned from Ed, who is one of 7 demonologists in North America and the only non-ordained one who was recognized by the church. And I learned a lot of what he knows. Certainly don't know everything he knows, but everything I learned at the time came directly from Ed. And he warned us all the time. He had signs everywhere. If you touch something, tell me immediately. And I am being 6'6", bumped into a dragon sculpture hanging from fishing wire from the rafters, and I bumped it with my head, and I said, hey, I just bumped this thing. You just bumped the worst thing possible. And I think he was pulling my leg. But I said, then why is it here? To endanger your students, right? They had to be kept somewhere, right? And this is part of my diatribe. And he used those as tools of history, right? To teach us what these cases were about and how they came about and how these objects were related. Not everything in that museum is haunted or cursed or negatively charged. In fact, most items probably are not as dangerous as they've been rumored to be, but there are definitely objects that are very, very seriously, very negatively charged, including the Annabelle, right? Now, nothing is truly physical. When you look at quantum physics, everything is frequency and vibration, and there is an entity and an energy surrounding that doll who uses it to manipulate people and lure people in. And it has been Ed Warren's warnings have been completely ignored by the very people that are claiming to be there carrying on his legacy, in charge of the objects. And I don't want to name names, but the man spent his lifetime and his career, assembling these items to keep them out of the public, right? To take them away from these cases where people were experiencing horrific demoniacal activity, and from places that, for instance, the big statue that they found in the woods where there were sacrifices being made to Satan, right? He took that away so it couldn't be used any longer. And that obviously is going to have all kinds of negative energies around it. And that they're parading this stuff around as if they're toys. And it's reckless and dangerous and putting people in danger. And I actually said this, and I wrote about this in the analysis section of both Dark Siege 1 and 2. I really hammered it in Dark Siege number 2, saying I think the haunted museum idea is dangerous and foolish. Nobody should be entering these places to go and interact with objects that are cursed, allegedly cursed or affected in any negative way, because our auric field, which has been proven to exist, radiates from 1 foot to 12 feet in diameter away from us. And we're walking through narrow aisles where all these objects are put on tables and shelving and so forth. And we're sweeping through all of that stuff. Now, Lorraine, was very concerned about our physical health as investigators, her investigators, our physical health, our mental health, our emotional health, our spiritual health. spirituality being the first primary factor. If you have no belief in God, there's no way in heck you're going to be involved in any of these cases. You know, if you're a thrill seeker, you're not going to be involved in these cases. If you're a serious person that wants to help and it's a calling, as it was in my case, then you're going to be assigned to cases. So you have people that are entering the museum. You don't know what state of mind they're in. You don't know if they're emotionally distressed. You don't know if they're in physical ill health. You don't know if they've been consuming drugs or any number of drugs, including pharmaceuticals or alcohol.
Alcohol.
All right. Lowers your frequency and vibration. Bill Bean and I talk about that all the time. We're like two peas in a pod in that regard. I love that man. And all of these things lower your vibration and your frequency. So if you're in any of these situations where you're not fully protected, right, and you don't have any belief in God, or you're an atheist, or you're even, somebody who's leaning toward the other path, if you know what I mean, goes into these places, it's very likely that you can develop some kind of attachment. And I call it a frequency bridge. It's a frequency match. If you're an extra low frequency state and all these entities and energies are an extra low frequency state, it's much easier for that bridge to take place. When you look at somebody who's happy and healthy, right, they're vibrant, they're positive, good-natured people are vibrant, they're happy, their energy levels are high, they're strong. They have a strong, and if they're religious or spiritual, they have a strong spiritual defense field. It's like your shields are up on the Enterprise, right? That's an analogy. In your good health and and you take somebody on the opposite end of the spectrum who's depressed and anxious and full of fear, right? Fear creates holes in your auric field, breaches, drugs, alcohol to try to balance out those emotional anxiety-ridden states. I mean, you have no idea who's coming in to check out these objects or the ramifications. And like Archbishop McLeod said, these beings can come in based upon something your relatives may have done decades or centuries earlier, because it affects the entire familiar line, right? They call them generational curses and things like that. I'd love to hear I want to hear what you have to say, Bishop Sparks, because I feel like I'm hogging all the time here.
No, you're the guest, my friend.
Take notes. Well, I'm trying to make sense of this whole thing and put it all together easily for everybody to understand without, stepping on toes and angering people.
You've done a very good job at it.
Well, thank you. Like Archbishop McLeod says, they can come in from the most innocent of invitations, and it could be something that the parents have done that are affecting the children. So if you go in there and you start, challenging these spirits, or make yourself using your God-given free will to walk into this building, right? All right, or walk into a case there's alleged demonic activity taking place, or walking into a cemetery, you're using your free will and basically saying anything here is welcome to come mess with me, because you put yourself in this situation. Especially people who are seeking these things. So then they can say, okay, well, thank you, but we're going to hold off for a while, because these beings exist outside of time and space. We can wait decades. We can wait a century. They can play the long game, like Archbishop McLeod said in 2023. And they look at us like we're the wildebeest on the Serengeti, right? We're the prey to be pounced upon when we're the weakest, not when we're the strongest. So all of these things can come back. So here's the thing, right? What part of do not open the box do people not understand?
And
positively do not open the box.
Not open the box. And Lorraine, you see that in all of her shows, like anything she always talks, these are, yeah.
So handmade oven mitts are not going to protect you. The problem is none of the people currently in the NESPR are demonologists. None of them were trained by Ed Warren. Ed Warren's warnings are being completely ignored, right? And they're moving the doll from one box that Ed put it in and sealed it in to another that was recreated using oven mitts. Like that's going to protect anybody, right? I mean, it's lunacy as far as I'm concerned, and it's reckless,
Very
dangerous,
sad.
and people have been put in danger, and somebody has died, right? The individual who's actually handling the doll with homemade oven mitts. The problem is that none of us who were the original investigators working with the Warrens, trained by Ed as demonologists, working demonic cases, have been consulted about any of this, right? It's like we don't even exist. And it's really sad in that regard, because we can offer insight, especially to the new caretakers or guardians of the museum and the house and the objects, who look at this as some kind of paranormal hobby. It is not paranormal. It's theological. All right. These aren't just, objects haunted by earthbound human spirits. These are objects taken from demonic cases where demonic infestation and oppression and possession is taking place, where where animal and human sacrifice, maybe child sacrifice, has taken place before these idols. How do we know, right? What was done? And we're dealing with the most vile, despicable creatures on anywhere that exist outside of time and space, that hate humanity with every fiber of their being, that want to kill, rob, and destroy. And we have a bunch of comedians. Never heard of these guys before. They have a great following. But sadly, this entire field has turned into clicks and follows and followers and what do you call it? Influencing, right? And and there's so many people speaking out about it and so forth. It's just so disturbing to me to know that everything that Ed stood for is just being completely ignored. And that's why I made those shirts, the legends, because they're the legends, right? And that's what they looked like when I worked with them. All these kids think, they see Vera Famiglia and the other actor, portraying the Warrens, they don't even know what they really looked like. And that's why I was trying to preserve their legacy that way. And I made those shirts because I was a guest speaker at the Warrens Con last year, and I wanted to sell those as part of my
I love that
bundles
shirt.
and things. Thank you. And when they're gone, they're gone. I'm not going to redo them. I don't think. One. You better get them now. Anyway, it's just a sad state of affairs. And what needs to happen is the people like myself who've worked with them, and I'm not the only one by any means. I came in 1990. There are people there who are still alive, is what I'm saying. People who are still alive who worked with the Warrens. They haven't themselves died. One oldest member of the group has died, Joe Hayjack. He was on the case in Vermont that you hear in the audio tape. The one that was screaming, "It's coming, it's coming." Very serious. We're all very serious. And we did this before there were cell phones, before there were selfie mania, before there was the internet, before anybody was looking for doing it to try to get on a TV show, which never existed at the time, because all these shows existed because of what the Warrens did, right, and their lifelong careers. None of us did it for any of those reasons. We wanted to unlock the secrets of the universe, to help people. For me, it was a calling to try to help people overcome demonic infestation and oppression, and help them understand that we are protected by God. All we need to do is remember that and believe it. And that's what I have to say about it.
Well, you and I talked the next day after that event that happened with the passing of the gentleman.
Yeah.
And what's the feel of the locals, in your area? This house being sold, this museum being sold to comedians.
Here's the thing. There's news story after news story all over the place, all over the country, all over the world, especially in Connecticut. And I haven't chimed in, and I'm not after the media blitz. If I was, I'd be writing messages and I'd be sending them to all the media outlets to speak my piece and so forth. But it's never been about me.
Right.
It's been about the families who have to endure these things, and the victims of demonic infestation, and the Warrens, my teachers and mentors. And, I've been juggling with this idea, saying, look, I can go out there and write a big diatribe and post it and talk about it and be as political as possible, not just try to hurt anybody's feelings and step on anybody's toes. Maybe they just don't know any better, but I know better. And thinking that this could propel everything, because then more people would become aware of my books. They'd be helped by them. The goal is for the books to help people, not to scare them. And And then it's interesting because those of us who were the original investigators working with the Warrens, who were all very aware of what's going on, everybody's just like, we don't want to cause any, hornet's nest to erupt and so forth. But our opinions matter because we were there. And I use the analogy like ancient Egypt, like the Egyptian ruins, right? Here we have people stumbling upon the Egyptian ruins, for instance, the current generation, right? Finding the treasures, hoarding them for themselves, doing with them what they will, ignoring the curse of Tutankhamun, for instance, right? We, the investigators, we're the ones that built the pyramids in this regard, as an analogy. I mean, we were there in that history. We lived in that era, that history. So we have information that these other people do not have, because not hardly any of these other investigators that I worked with that I cherish have come forward to tell their versions of the stories and their experiences. And that's why I wanted to bring everybody together. I created Working with the Warrens, right? Workingwiththewarrens.com. And I've reached out to all these people. I said, let's all come together, right? And celebrate Ed and Lorraine Warren, their legacy and their policies, right? And their procedures. And I've yet to assemble people. Jimmy Petnito is a friend of mine. He came in 1992. He functioned as the one of the photographers. He worked with Bishop McKenna and filmed exorcisms at the chapel, Our Lady of the Rosary Chapel. And he has a lot to say too. He's published two books recently about his cases, not his cases, but his experiences working with Bishop McKenna and all the exorcisms that he's performed. Right. And he filmed a lot of them. I don't know if that's a smart idea to film it, but I actually invited him to become part of the Defeating the Demonic because he has footage that's related to Bishop McKenna, who's related to the Warrens and so forth, a part of the history, right? You'll maintain ownership of all your material, but let's come together and talk about our experiences and how he got involved and so forth. So there's people like him and myself and Drew and John and, Donna. Sadly, Joe's passed. And I said, look, and we have so much to talk about, and we're not going to be around here forever. Any tragedy can happen anytime, and somebody's going to kick the bucket, and all that history is lost unless it's recorded, right? Whether it's in audio format or book format or lectures or things like that. And I think after this death took place, people started to realize, wow, we can be lost, But I see these people being celebrated as these ultimate celebrities, and it's like it boggles my mind. It really does.
Yeah,
maybe because of this is happening, and you put that out there, and you didn't know that they had been making plans. Obviously, this is something that was being planned last year while we were at the Connecticut. I mean, they had already done the zoning. I thought that was a little odd when I was there because I wanted to go there, and the zoning had shut it down. But now, if you think about it, this plan had been going on, I heard now, a few years. So they've been having some talks. So they must have had something going on, and that's why now maybe you could create it, because now we know a little bit more of the truth.
I thought about reaching out to these guys, right? They don't know me from Adam. I don't think they do. I mean, I didn't know them, but, to say, look, I was there. We have others who were there. You are now in control of the house and the museum. You really could benefit from advice from us who know what we're talking about, because tragedy can occur at any moment, just like it has with Dan. And people say, oh, what else? Here's the thing. All right. I'm going to set the record straight with this, because this is something that needs to be said, is the people say Annabelle has nothing to do with it, the untimely death, right? None of these people are demonologists. They don't understand how these beings operate, right? Is it possible? Sure is. Is it likely? Who knows? But for somebody to say, oh, a friend in North Dakota shuts down rumors that Annabelle had anything to do with the untimely death of Dan. How the heck Can you say that with any amount of authority when you have no idea what you're even dealing with? Now, was it the real doll that was on tour? Who knows? I'll know if I see it because I can tell, right? Because we know how to identify. Because we were there.
Why has it been so hidden away? Why did the Warrens think why have all these movies been made about it? Is that fake? I mean, it's like
Yeah.
to me, it's like, hello.
Here's the thing,
We
Drew,
know it's
right?
not fake.
There's a lot of, rumors. Is it really cursed? Does it really have anything going on with it? And I have people who are very talented psychics. Drew is one of them, right? He was one of the Warren investigators. He was there before I ever stepped foot in the door, said he felt violent emotion coming from this thing. He never wanted to give it any kind of recognition. He heard voices and things like that when he was alone in the museum by himself with it. And he absolutely believes there's something very, very negative manipulating it, trying to lure people in, especially those with no defenses, and then go after them. And that's what they do. They don't fight fair, right? So here's the thing. For people to say that it had nothing to do with the death, don't know what they're talking about, it is possible. Put it out there. Can I say for sure? Of course not. We don't know. But I think that, ignoring the will of Ed Warren and his policies that have been set in stone, right, is an insult of insults. It is unbelievable. And then to, take it and remove it and think that you're protecting yourself using gloves, homemade gloves. Where did that information, where did that idea that you're protecting yourself making homemade oven mitt gloves come into play? And that's what we're dealing with. And
people don't think there's any consequence to poking the bear, but when you poke the bear is going to wake up. And the thing about it is so many people don't understand spiritual atmosphere. Just like the presence of God sanctifies space, unclean spirits defile, and they linger in areas where they've been welcomed. And they don't care who you are, if you go to church, if you don't, if you believe in God, if you don't. When you come into the presence of these items and you play with fire, you're going to get burnt.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very scary. And if you're not trained to deal with these types of things, you shouldn't be poking the bear.
Right.
I think it's really sad to see what the paranormal investigative community, how quickly they also, and if you want to be mad at me, fine, I don't care. I mean, whatever. But these people, but I was shocked at how quickly they were saying it wasn't the doll. I mean, these people have made a great deal of money in some of these shows, being the investigators on these big shows, for them to just berate the people and make people feel like they're shunned because they're trying to say, look, this is what Ed and Lorraine Warren would say.
Right.
They wouldn't want the doll there. The doll is dangerous. So I'm really surprised to see how the community of the television people acted.
Yeah. Well, here's another thing, right? So many of these people that landed these TV shows were actors. They had no experience whatsoever investigating paranormal. And I was like, I actually, addressed one of them who's on one of the big shows. I've never watched any of those shows, by the way, not one. Okay. And I asked, how did you get involved? I mean, how did you land this gig? And he's like, oh, it was just, it was a casting call and I just landed the gig. So you're telling me that you had no experience whatsoever investigating any cases of the paranormal, let alone any cases involving authentic demonic activity, and which is what the show is about. And you landed a show, and now you are a para-celebrity. When those of us who've worked with the legends who started the entire modern North American craze, paranormal investigation craze, are sitting here on the sidelines, rolling our eyes at the absurdity of it all. And yet you have the audacity to tell me that you're sure that nothing's, nothing nefarious is at work here. It's so laughable and it truly is comedy. When I saw that, I was like, this has to be a joke, because there's the whole field's been turned into a circus as it is, right? With everybody and their mother up there with the black t-shirts and the hats and the the sunglasses and the bulging biceps, XYZ paranormal, and it's like, what are you doing differently than the 10,000 other groups out there, that are all claiming to be, trying to get their one clip or one EVP or something to land themselves on a TV show. Then they get all these perks and stuff. And it's just like, it's turned into a circus. It's turned into a rat race where everybody's just trying to, screw everybody else, making stories up, right? And being called out by other people that know the truth about the stories, and yet they're still out there trying to make up stories and go from group to group to group. You know who you are out there. It's just it's beyond maddening, and look what happened to the Conjuring House. I know Andrea.
I
right?
apologize on behalf of all this. I mean, because I know how dedicated you are and were to this work and to your craft and to that family, to the Warrens. I mean,
Yeah.
I know you are. And I'm just like, I feel for you, Jason. I really do. And I hope someday that there will be a turnaround and people will understand this.
Yeah.
The greatest lie ever told by the devil is that he doesn't exist.
Yeah.
And the reason why money gets funneled into people's pockets is because he's the one behind it.
Mhm.
And if you may not knowingly be working for him, but see, here's the thing: demons are very territorial. Remember when Jesus came to the tomb of the Gadarenes, that spirit met him and said, "What are you doing here, Jesus? Have you come to torment us before the time?" So I mean, and then he said, "Well, don't send us out of the region. Don't send us out of the area. Send us into that herd of swine." So, this shows that evil spirits stake claim to certain physical or geographical areas, and the spiritual rule always say your presence acknowledges their territory, and walking into a space where darkness is honored without authority or covering can be seen as a spiritual agreement. Or
Yeah.
check this out: spiritual trespassing. So if you're not filled with God and his spirit and walking in authority, you could be perceived as vulnerable, and they take advantage of that.
But think about the defeating the demonic event, right? This is another great segue, but that's why I put this thing together, because people are clueless, right? They either don't believe in the devil, or some may believe in God, but a good percentage of those who believe in God don't believe in the devil. They think it's just, it's BS. So many clergy don't believe in the devil. So as Archbishop Enright said, so many, churches have no ministry of exorcism or any deliverance ministry or anything to help people afflicted by dark spirits. And yet I put this whole event together, flew people in, arranged everything, hotels and all that other stuff. And the first event was pretty packed, which was nice, at a hotel. And I thought I would make it bigger at that theater in Bridgeport and expand it to 13 hours. I don't know what I was thinking of information, but there's so much information to convey, right? But look at the turnout. There wasn't another event, 40 minutes away, and there was another event in Tarrytown, New York. But you would think, especially now, right, with all of the disasters that are happening all over the earth, right? The flooding has been incredible everywhere. The earthquakes and the tsunamis and the fires and the windstorms and the hailstorms and it's just insane weather events, right? But you would think people would start to say, what if this is all tied into Revelation? What if this is all tied into the earth changes in the end? And maybe I should start, paying attention. Maybe this chain of events will help people pay attention. But, I want to take that defeating the demonic on the road, to multiple cities instead of just doing it once a year. That way we could film it and do stuff with it. But again, the purpose is not to terrify people, to help them understand this stuff is real. It's trying to sneak into your life and destroy you through any crack in the armor or chink in the armor that it can find. And it won't just go after you. It'll go after your family and your loved ones. It'll go after the future generations. It'll go after your pets. It'll affect you in a myriad ways that you won't even be able to discern at first. And that's where demonologists come in to the fact, right? That's where clergy come in. That's where we understand this is how these spirits operate. I mean, the whole plantation burned down, for God's sake. Is it related? Oh, that can't possibly be related. Who knows? It is possible that it's related. All right.
Everybody creates their own sense of what they call reality. And if it ain't real in their mind, then it's not real at all. And they don't pay attention to consequences. They don't pay attention to warning signs. They've not been trained or taught.
Yeah.
And that's the scary thing. Nobody has discernment anymore. It's all about money. Like you said, it's all about followers. It's all about clicks on the YouTube channel. And that's scary.
Yeah.
I think you touched on a key thing, a key word, keywords I did not know. Lorraine, I know you've said that many times, do you believe in God? Or that she would say those
How
things.
strong is your faith, honey? Yeah. Right? It was the very first question.
Every single person that she would want to be on that team that could handle what was about to happen had to have faith. So anybody, you did it, you just said that perfectly, bravo.
And
anybody going into these places, if you are not protected, you are... Hey, I have lived hell. Yeah. I'm lucky I'm alive, and I'm lucky I'm standing here with these wonderful people. But I'm like a miracle. But I think about all the things we went through, and even like Joe would bring home crazy things to fix up in art, and I'd walk by the shop, and I'd be like, what is that? Really? And I'd look in there, there's some weird sculpture from Indonesia or whatever, I don't know, wherever, Peru. Yeah. I mean, and those things had attachments, and that was coming in here too. So that it's real. I mean, even the haunted collector guy, John Zappa. I mean, that's like they'd all show.
That's the Warren's nephew. He basically mirrored Ed's museum.
He's very serious.
Of course, he's very serious. And if anybody contacts me with an object they want to get rid of, he's the first person I'll get in touch with. Because he knows how to deal with it. Now, he is somebody that should be consulted, all right? But there's all kinds of animosity there. It's family feud in the extreme. You can't even understand, and I don't know the half of it. All I just know is that everybody's feuding with each other. You have the grandson that's going off on a tangent like he's the greatest thing that's since sliced bread. Never saw him around anywhere. Never saw him in any cases. Never saw him in the museum. He was never involved, as far as I was concerned, in the ways that he was saying he's involved, right? Don't know you, right? But if you want to reach out and have a conversation, but just because you're a blood relative doesn't mean that you're the one that's going to carry on and be the sole person to carry on the legacy. There's him and there's this other guy, who's claiming he was there for 40 years. He was never anywhere to be seen. And John asked him, do you know Joe, Donna, Drew? Nope. Then you weren't around, and you weren't on these cases in the 80s and the early 90s and so forth. So don't go claiming that you've been around for 40 years and that you're the legend of legends, selling selfies of yourself. I mean, selling glossy portraits of yourself and charging money for selfies and autographs. It's like, it's crazy. So you have people starting foundations claiming to be carrying on the Lawrence legacy. They weren't even anywhere near to be found. I didn't see any of those guys around, and the tens of thousands of followers. Oh, it's like, you don't even know the true story, So that's what I'm saying is there's exaggerations going on that have taken place, and it's causing all kinds of division, and it's stupid. So here's the solution. I'm going to create a chronological list of everybody that's worked with the Warrens starting from 1955 onwards that we can that we can find when they came in, what they did, what cases they were on, how involved they were, right, on the casework. You can be a relative, that's great. And you can have ham sandwiches all you want to, right? And you can ride your bike to grandma's house all you love to, right? But if you weren't involved in the cases, sticking your neck on the line like we were, right? It's dangerous business to go on these cases and so forth. And you have to be trained properly, and you have to respect the will of the teacher. In this case, Ed Warren, respect his policies. You know, we would have been given the boot if we didn't follow those rules precisely. And he trained us. We were very serious people. You know, don't mess with these objects. Don't give it recognition. If you touch anything, tell them immediately. Get prayed over. Pray for yourself, right? Over yourself, and respect it. The objects are there as learning tools and to keep them away. They were pulled out of these cases to keep those people that were involved in those cases, the families that were being tormented, safe. So they didn't create a conduit through which these energies can come back, you know, or they're removed from the woods like the statue was, the giant idol, you know, which is very negatively charged. The thing that creeps me out, Bishop, is are the masks, especially like the masks from Africa and things like that, because they're worn. Where are they worn? When people are dancing around fires and doing all these ceremonies and so forth, and who knows what's really going on there, you know? So that's the stuff that's definitely dangerous as far as I'm concerned. And that's all I've said. I know I went off on a tangent and I'm probably going to get in trouble for everything I said, but you know what? It needs to be said because
you're not going to get in trouble for anything you've said. Everything you said has been spot on tonight. And, you know, it's things that need to be discussed because we're living in a detrimental time where the devil is doing everything that he can to destroy the lives of people. And those of us that are trained, we have an obligation to God and to them to peel back the veil and say, listen, this is what we're exposing. And these things need to be talked about because it's not just the body that we're talking about. We're talking about people's eternal souls. And, you know, the stakes are high. And, you know, we love our families. We love our children. And I do everything I can to protect my children. And you know, I suffer a lot in my body because of the things that I do. But that's okay. But, you know, we have to protect our families. We have to protect our own lives. We have to protect everybody we come in contact with. We've got to be very careful. You know, the devil plays on vulnerability, and he's doing everything that he can to destroy human beings. That is his main goal. And we have to protect them. We have to draw a line in the sand. We have to be willing to set boundaries and say, listen, we're not going to go past this. We refuse to sell out. We're not for sale. We're going to stand and declare the truth. Even in the midst of chaos, we're going to be a voice of clarity. And that's what we have to do.
Yeah.
And Jason, I know we really appreciate you being on. I wish we had more time. Then we would love for you to come back.
Yes.
And we can
I can't believe you're coming to Ashland.
I know. We didn't.
Sorry.
It was fun, but it was really important. I think this was important. I didn't know we were going to really go into the subject. I think it's important. It's important.
It's all in the news. You know, it's people are every time, you know, during the situation first. All these shows I've done since, you know, the first of the year, people would come up. What do you think about them taking the objects on tour? What do you think about the death? Now it's, what do you think about the sale of all this stuff? And they come up to me at the conventions, one after the other. Everybody who knows that I worked with the Warrens and sees the shirts and the stand-up, the cardboard cutouts and my photos, my newspaper articles, when I explained that I wrote a newspaper column called Hauntings, you know, about the cases I worked on with the Warrens when I was a sophomore in college for the school paper. You know, that's set in stone. You know, that's history that thankfully is there and people really appreciate. But people want to know. They want to know what our opinions are. Sadly, the other paranormal investigators out there and the ones that are in control of everything now don't really care what we have to say. And it's like, we were there. You know what I mean? It's like we were the acolytes, right? The acolytes of Ed Warren.
You know the truth, bro. See, so the story being written now.
Sadly, they never will care.
You guys were living it and know the actual events, so it kind of distorts a modern story that's being created.
Yeah.
It's all right. It's
when you know, when you know,
God
we've been
is
saying
victorious.
lately.
God is victorious.
Yeah. So
Lorraine believed that. Lorraine believed in God. God was what she believed in. So no matter what, I know that she is still there and able to, pray and on the other side. I'm sure she is very well aware of what's happening. And her husband too.
Yeah.
So God knows too.
Yeah. Not saying anything is just as dangerous as saying things, that may upset people. If you hold your tongue and don't speak out, and speak your truth to help spare people from danger, right? Then I think you're doing a disservice. That's what I guess we had this conversation tonight, because I was really holding back on saying anything, because I don't like burning bridges. I like, bringing people together and helping people understand, hey, admit you made a mistake, move on. My sensei in karate said, if I get angry with you and stay angry with you, how do we grow together? The people who don't want to grow together, but I mean, they want to be doing their own thing. And anyway, I'll keep going. So I'll have to just go. Thank you for having me on tonight.
We are not guaranteed how long we will be on this earth. We could all not even be here tomorrow. And
liberation from the madhouse.
Start telling the truth or saying our truth while we're here, then what good are we?
Yeah.
We have to do that too.
Yeah.
So I think you did the right thing.
Yeah.
I appreciate it. And we thank you so much for being here. Bishop Joshua, why don't you say something amazing to end the show like you always do?
Well, Jesus said if the soul has lost its savor, it is only good to be thrown down and trodden under the feet of men. We have to be very careful and guard our hearts and our minds, and guard our families against the evil and the darkness that's engulfed this world. Thank God for men like Jason, for women like you, Mercedes, and for those that we fellowship with, Archbishop Enright, Dr. Glenn, Dr. Adrian, Bishop McLeod, or your Bishop Cloud, I'm sorry. Sorry, Jason.
I like the sound of that.
Maybe one day, Bishop Long, Bill Bean,
Bill Bean.
I thank God for everybody that's come forth.
Reverend Dan.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, brother.
Yeah.
Reverend Dan
Todd. Yeah.
Ken Torres. There's all kinds of people out there that are working. So, I just want to say, Jason, thank you. I can't wait to spend time with you when you come to Ashland. Gosh, I can't wait to tell Melissa.
Yeah. Oh my God, that's like a miracle in your city.
I know, in my city. Wow.
We'll have to plan some stuff for sure.
Oh, we're going to. But thank you for coming on tonight, and I can't wait to get you back.
Thank you.
We love you. We love you.
Love you too. Love you too. Take care, both of you.
You too.
Right.
Thank you, Stan, for being our amazing producer.
Thank you, Stan.
And good night to all of you.
Oh, yeah. Good night,
everybody.